The diseases of attitude. It's never that pleasant to talk about the negative, but we got to talk about it because life is part negative. These attitude diseases are like weeds that grow in the garden. It's a normal part of life. Here's a good phrase to note. Negative is normal. It's not successful, but it's normal. It's part of life. And here's the next key, in my opinion. You must learn to handle the negative. Don't ignore it. Handle it. Now, I know some people teach the other way. And listen to them, and listen to me, and then make up your own mind. Right? Don't be a follower. Be a student. But I say you got to handle the negative. You don't have to live in it. You don't have to dwell on it. But you do have to handle it, my opinion. I know some people teach, just turn your head real quick and say, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. They'll take your garden. So you've got to handle the negative. Here's what part of it is. It's called the Great War Between Good and Evil. Mr. Reynolds and I are working on a new book this year called The Great War Between Good and Evil. And there is a war on. The minute you were born, you got involved in the war between good and evil, between darkness and light, between negative and positive, between evil and good, between tyranny and democracy, between weeds and human activity. I mean, the war is on. If democracy sleeps, guess who never sleeps? Tyranny. In the absence of light, guess what's automatic? Darkness. If good does not arouse itself and become active, guess what moves in? Evil. It's a war. A mental war, a physical war, a financial war, between enterprise and ease, between accomplishment and failure. It's a war. That's why there's an Old Testament phrase that gives the best advice for human activity when it says, 6 days labor, 1 day rest. Now, I'm sure we've taken that to mean, don't work all 7 days, take one off. Here's what it also means, only take one off. Or you're liable to lose the war. Now, we've got it down to 5 and 2, and maybe that's not too dangerous. I don't know. If God would have thought of 5 and 2, he might have made it 5 and 2. I don't know. You can't think of everything. But here's what it does mean. Enterprise is better than ease. If you rest too long, the jungle overtakes the village. Now, here's the good news about the war between good and evil. Evil is no match for good, but good must be active. Weeds are no match for human activity, but if you stand still, how far in will they come? All the way. They'll grow right up around your shoes. But if you get busy, how far back can you take them? As far as you wish. They're no match, but you must be active. That's why the 6 and 1. Make sure you're not losing the war by taking off too much. Guess what the average years are after retirement? 6. 6. Which means don't retire. Your chances are too slim. Okay. The war between good and evil, the weeds. You got to make sure you recognize the negative, handle it, deal with it, and then go on. Let's make a list of the diseases of attitude that can wreck all your chances to do well. One of the words that destroys everything is called neglect. Neglect. And I found this out. A week of neglect could cost you a year of repair. It isn't worth it. So what to be on the lookout for? Here's the list. If you were making it, you'd have the same list I've got. Right? We're not covering anything new tonight. This is a reminding session, not a teaching session. But it doesn't hurt to go over it again. Here's the list. Attitude diseases. Number one is indifference. The shrug of the shoulder. The guy's not even concerned. He's just drifting. This is called the mild approach to life. A disease known as mildness. The guy says, well, I can't see getting all that worked up. Well, to be any kind of winner, you gotta get worked up. There's one problem with drift. You cannot drift to the top of the mountain. And the good Lord said in the closing chapters of the Bible, here's the best way to live, one way or the other. That's best. Hot or what's next best? Cold is next best to hot. Not the half-baked middle, lukewarm, not too hot, not too cold. What a sad way to live. I think what it means is pick a direction and go with everything you got. Just pick one and go. Somebody says, yeah, but what if it's the wrong direction? You'll find out quicker. It won't take you 25 years to wake up and say, oh no, I've been walking the wrong road. I told my staff the other day, next best to prosperity is adversity. If one doesn't get you, pray for the other. We all do better from one of two reasons, inspiration or desperation. And I don't wish anything bad on you tonight, but if you're not inspired, I hope a wagon comes down your rut. Whatever it takes to get you to try harder, read more, set your goals, and go for it. Somebody asked me one time, what quality would I pick if I wanted to work with somebody? And you know what I picked first? Number one, strong feeling. Please, number one, give me somebody that feels strong. About most anything, I don't even care. Just so they believe it. Even if they disagree with me. Wonderful. Just so they disagree vigorously. I'm not saying it's easy to win those kind of people to your point of view, but I'd rather do that than to try to resurrect people from the dead. Pump them up every month, pump them up, pump them up. I pass. The good Lord needs a leader for the early Christians. Remember the early days of the Christians? Not like today. If you were to stand up in the early days and say, I'm a Christian, cut off your head, toss you and your wife in jail, let you rot. I mean, those were ugly days. Being a Christian back then was not called socially acceptable. They didn't have 125,000 in the Los Angeles Coliseum to hear Billy Graham on a Sunday afternoon. Not back in those days. Back in those days when the Christians got in the Coliseum, it was a different story, right? I mean, the word was, stay out of the Coliseum, especially on Sunday. Last Sunday was Lions 33, Christians nothing. See, those were mean, tough struggle days for the Christians. Now, when the days are mean and tough and struggling, you got to have some kind of leader. Do you know who the good Lord picked for the leader when the days were mean and ugly? Saul from Tarsus. That's who he picked, Saul. I'll tell you what, I would have picked him. You would have picked him. Anybody would have picked Saul. Saul was one of those incredible guys. Once he got into something, look out. Everybody in the community knew what Saul was in. Because whatever he joined, he'd flip all the switches, open up all the dials, turn on all the faucets, and go like mad. He was known as All-Out Saul. I mean, he was something else. Now, at first, it wasn't working out well. Saul hated Christians, which makes a poor leader, right? I mean, that won't work. Saul got this bug somewhere about the Christians. He got to hating Christians. And he hated them so bad, every time somebody would say Christian, he'd fly into a rage. And I guess he decided one day, it was his mission in life to get rid of all the Christians. He was Saul anyhow, could do most anything he wanted to. So he got him these letters of authority to go around to the various communities and hunt down the Christians. They said, do whatever you want to with them, Saul, they're unpopular anyhow. Drag them in the streets, whip them, stone them, torture them, kill them. You mention the name Saul from Tarsus to the early Christians, I'll tell you what they would do. They would run, hide, lock the doors, leave town, dive underground. I've been in the catacombs of Rome where they hid. He was mean. I mean, terribly mean. But remember the story? One day Saul's making it for Damascus. Heard about some new Christians, flies into a rage, takes off for Damascus. And the story said he was angry. There's a little sentence in the story that says, on his way to Damascus, he was breathing out threatenings and slaughter, which meant he felt rather strong about the idea, right? That's strong, that's strong. But on this journey, right, according to the story, as Saul was making his way to Damascus, the good Lord looks down out of heaven and says, there's my man, Saul. He's got to be something else. And according to the story, this great light shines out of heaven, knocks him flat, right off his horse, grinds his face in the dirt, and blinds him for 3 days. The good Lord using recruiting tools we can't use, but when you're Lord, right? To make a long story short, Saul from Tarsus becomes converted to Christianity. He becomes Paul, the great leader, the apostle. And without a doubt, the good Lord got him a dandy. One he didn't have to pump up every month. In one of his later writings, he said, the things I once hated, I now love. The things I once loved, I now hate. See, that's strong. Here's the key to the good life. Learn to put everything you've got into everything you do. Whatever you are doing, pour it on. It will quickly open up into opportunity or quickly disclose to you that you ought to be doing something else. The delusion is, if I had a better job, I'd really pour it on. See, that's delusion. Wherever you are, pour it on. Don't give somebody half a job for a day's pay. Pour it on. See, that'll help change your life. Get rid of this disease. Here's the next attitude disease, indecision. Mental paralysis. The guy can't make up his mind and it becomes a disease. Pretty soon he knows he's got it. The guy says, well, I know I'm on the fence. But he says, what if I get off on the wrong side? Listen, after a while it doesn't matter. Just get off. Any side will do. A life full of adventure is a life full of many decisions. The ones that turn out to be wrong give you better experience to make better decisions. So don't see how many decisions you can get out of, see how many you can get into. That's where the adventure is. So shake off this disease, indecision. The next one is doubt. Doubt's like a plague, and one of the worst is self-doubt. There are many, but that's one of the worst. The guy doubts himself, doubts if it'll last that long for him, doubts if he can do that well, doubts if he can make that much, doubts if he can accomplish all that. A chronic, excellent self-doubter. You can imagine what damage that does to your future. So here's the key. Turn this coin over and become a believer. And there's many things to believe in. One of the majors is yourself. The understanding of self-worth is the beginning of progress. Now, if those three don't get you, this one will. Worry. That's a devastating disease. Worry. Worry causes health problems, social problems, personal problems, family problems. It's devastating. Worry long enough, it'll drop you to your knees. Could reduce you to begging. I know how bad this one is. I used to have it bad. I used to be known as a super worrier. Not a super warrior. No, super worrier. My family wished I'd have been a warrior. I got those years to make up for. But I'll tell you what. My advice to you is do what I finally did on worry. Give it up. Who needs it? I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's worth it. It took me almost 1 year to kick the worry habit, and it was not an easy year. It was one of the toughest years I ever spent, but I finally got that monkey off my back. And I discovered you could live the most incredible life free of worry. Not free of challenge, not free of difficulty, free of worry. I learned how to do it, and you can. Here's the next attitude disease. Over caution. Some people never will have much. They're too cautious. Now, you can also be too reckless, but you can also be too cautious. This is called the timid approach to life. And my caution was always the risk. Risk used to drive me right up the wall. I used to say, what if this happens? It's called the language of the poor. What if this happens? And on top of that, if this was to happen, look at the fix I'd be in. I better not try. I could always ace myself out. Then I'll tell you what changed my whole life when I finally discovered it's all risky. The minute you were born, it got risky. If you think trying is risky, wait till they hand you the bill for not trying. If you think investing is risky, wait till you get the tab for not investing. See, it's all risky. Getting married is risky. Having children is risky. Going into business is risky. Investing your money is risky. It's all risky. I'll tell you how risky life is. You're not going to get out alive. That's risky. The Englishman says, well, if that's the way it's going to work out, let's give it a go. Right, that's what it's for. Give it a go. Somebody says, yeah, but I'm looking for safety and security. Fine, then huddle in a corner. We'll cover you with a sheet, bring you 3 meals a day. And we'll protect you, feed you, look after you, care for you. We won't let anything happen to you, and you'll probably live to be 100. The guy said, well, yeah, I'd live to be 100. But what a way to live. Right. What a way to live, safe and secure. Don't ask for security. Ask for adventure. Better to live 30 years full of adventure than 100 years safe in the corner. And see, it's not important how long you live. What's important is how you live. Here's the next attitude disease. We're almost through with this motley list. In fact, we're almost through. Hang on. The next one is pessimism. Pessimism, the deadly disease of always looking on the bad side, the problem side, the difficult side, checking all the reasons why it can't be done. The poor pessimist leads an ugly life. He doesn't try to figure out what's right. He tries to figure out what's wrong. He doesn't look for virtue. He looks for faults. And when he finds them, he's delighted. How ugly. This is the poor guy who looks through the window, doesn't see the sunset. He sees the specks on the window. And this is the poor guy, right, who rushes up, takes such leave of his senses. This guy rushes up and he says, I've got 5 good reasons why it won't work. He's so dumb he doesn't know all he needs 1. He's got 5. To the pessimist, the glass is always half empty. To the optimist, the glass is half full. Why would the same measure affect people 2 different ways? Answer, it all depends on how you look at it. Our lives are mostly affected by the way we think things are, not the way they are. The way we think they are affects us most. There's a subject we don't have time to get into tonight called better thinking habits. One of the major things Shoaff taught me when I met him, he said, poor thinking habits keeps most people poor. Not poor working habits. Most people work hard, but they don't think hard. And Shoaff taught me that the mind is like a factory, a mental factory. And whatever you think about all day long pours ingredients into this mental factory. And that's what builds the economic, social, financial fabric of your life. He quoted me a Bible phrase that says, as you think, so you become. How awesome. When he talked about poor thinking habits, he had me. I used to start the day reading the morning newspaper. I mean, you can believe that or not. I'd get a cup of coffee and read the paper. I'd load up on wars and riots and murders and stabbings and killings and bank robberies and muggings and car wrecks and tragedies. I'd even read the back pages. I seem to like that stuff for some weird reason. I'd load up on all that, and then I'd start the day. You can imagine the kind of days I used to have. You walk around on your financial knees. They call you economic peewee. The guy says, I want to be a great leader. Wonderful. The first thing we do is follow him to his house. When we get there, we walk in and check his library, number one. Somebody says, well, why check his library? The reason is because what a man reads pours massive ingredients into his mental factory, and the fabric of his life is built from those ingredients. You would not believe what some people have got in their house to read. You would not believe. One of the best dressed up words I know for a lot of it is trash. Can you imagine dumping a barrel of trash into this mental factory every day and coming out with a rich, dynamic, positive life? It can't be done. You might as well try making a cake with cement. The kids back in Danbury, Connecticut, high school, they're asking me questions one day. I'm talking to the kids. Kids got good questions these days. One of them said to me, Mr. Rohn, how do you build the good life? I said, it's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Here's how you build anything. Select the right ingredients, keep out the wrong ingredients, and it starts with thought. Everything starts with thought. So you must be wise and careful what you think about, because that starts everything. You got to be wise and careful. I asked the kids, what would happen if somebody dropped sugar in my coffee? They said, well, you'd be okay. I said, what if somebody dropped strychnine in my coffee? They said, well, you'd be dead. I said, correct. Lesson one, life is both sugar and strychnine. You gotta be careful. I said, what if my worst enemy drops in the sugar? They said, will you be okay? I said, what if my best friend, even by accident, drops in the strychnine? They said, well, you'd be dead. I said, correct. Lesson two, watch your coffee. You got to be careful. See, it doesn't matter who hands you the bad stuff. It doesn't matter where you get the bad stuff. It'll still do its damage on your bank account, wherever you get it. Mr. Schoaf gave me one of the greatest phrases when I first met him, when he said, Jim, every day stand guard at the door of your mind. How important. Stand guard at the door of your mind. And you decide what goes into your mental factory. Don't let anybody just dump anything they want to in your mental factory, because you've got to live with the results. Okay, here's the last disease, and we're through with this list. In fact, we're almost through. Hang on. The last subject is very brief. The last disease, but this one is deadly. Engage in this one, indulge in it even slightly, and you might as well forget the future, because it's going to forget you. Complaining, crying, whining, griping, a Bible word called murmuring. See, that'll ace your future. Spend 5 minutes complaining, and you have wasted 5. And you may have begun what's known as economic cancer of the bone. Surely they will soon haul you off into a financial desert and there let you choke on the dust of your own regret. I hope I said that well, so you won't forget. It's a deadly disease. If you don't think it's bad, ask the children of Israel of Old Testament fame. Typical of us all, their story just happened to get in the book. Story says, children of Israel were slaves. God performed a series of dazzling miracles and got them out. And now they're heading for the promised land. Remember the story? Heading for the promised land. Tragedy of the story, they never got there. Reason. From day one, they started to complain. They griped about the water. They griped about the weather. They whined and cried and griped about the food. They griped about the leadership. They whined and cried because it was too far, too cold, too hot, too difficult, too miserable. I mean, they whined and cried for years. Finally, God said, "I've had it, trip canceled." Or something like that. The story says they died in the desert, never got to the promised land. Which I think means two things. Indulge in this long enough, you get your future canceled. And I guess it also means even God himself can only take so much.
In a University of Pennsylvania study, they put together millions and millions of dollars, and over a 22-year period, they studied 350,000 successful people all over the country. And they interviewed them to find out what they thought about most of the time, and how they thought about things most of the time. And then they tracked that over a period of months and years, and then compared income. And they found an interesting thing. A pattern began to emerge. Is successful people had a particular thinking pattern. They found there was one quality that successful people have more than any other single quality. It's the highest quality of all, and it was kind of predictive of success. It actually predicts success in life more than any other single thinking quality. Can you guess what it is? Can you guess what's the most important quality to predict success and happiness in life? It's optimism. What they found was that successful people had really high levels of optimism. They were really optimistic. They were positive most of the time. Does that mean they didn't have problems? Oh, they had far more problems than the average person because they tried more things. They found that optimists had two great qualities which led to their success. Number one was they tried more things because they had an unrealistic expectation that they would be successful. They just kind of believed they would be successful. Yeah, they believed if they just kept on, they would be successful. So they just tried more things. Now the second quality they had is they persisted more. Because they have an unrealistic expectation that if they just persist more, they'll succeed. What optimists have is what I call orientations. Now, an orientation is a particular way of thinking about life and the world. And the first orientation that optimists have is future orientation. Future orientation means that optimists idealize. Optimists think about the future most of the time. They think about where they're going most of the time. They think about the possibilities of the future, and they idealize. They kind of imagine, what would my future look like if it was fantastic? What would the world look like? What would my world look like? And there's four areas where optimists idealize. These are the four things that we all want in common. Number one is great health. We want to have great health. We want to feel good about ourselves. We want to have high levels of energy. We want to live forever, right? And it's never been possible to live longer and live better than it is today, right here. Number two is that optimists want to have loving relationships. They want to have happy relationships. They want to have happy families. They want to have happy friends. They want to have work with people they like, work for bosses they like. Well, the third thing that we all want is we all want to do meaningful work, and we all want to do it well. It's so important for us to do our work well, because this is what we found, is how much you like yourself, your level of self-esteem, determines your level of optimism. If you really like yourself, if you really feel happy about yourself, you'll do your work better. They did a study of 1,500 men and women who were at the tops of every one of their fields. It was a 9-year study. And they asked them, what is the greatest of all benefits of success? And you know what they said? It was wonderful feelings of self-esteem. They liked themselves. They liked themselves. They genuinely liked themselves and felt that they had done something important with their lives. Felt they had done something worthwhile with their lives. So therefore, a high level of self-esteem leads to self-confidence, It leads to optimism. It leads to a positive mental attitude. People with high self-esteem set big goals for themselves. And the starting point of of dreaming great dreams is to have a fantasy or an imaginary idea of your life as if it were perfect sometime in the future. If your life was perfect in 5 years, if your health was perfect and your family was perfect and your work was perfect and your financial situation was perfect in 5 years, what would it look like? What would it look like? And then you begin to think, hey, in 1 year maybe, but in 5 years, I could be fit, I could have a great family, I could be the top of my field in my work, I could be financially independent or on my way to financial independence. All that's possible within 5 years. Isn't that true? Now, here's an interesting point. Are you ready? The time is going to pass anyway. The 5 years is going to go past anyway. 5 years from now, 5 years will have gone by. You'll be 5 years older. The only question is, what are you going to do in the meantime? Well, here's my favorite word in success. My favorite word in success is the word clarity. What I say is you can't hit a target that you can't see. So your job is to be absolutely clear if your life was perfect. If you're married, sit down with your spouse and create what is called a dream list. And just say, these are our dreams for the future. And just write down everything you'd like to have in your life if you had no limits. If you had the power to achieve anything. If you could wave a magic wand over your life and have 3 wishes, what 3 wishes would you want? Health, happiness, money, financial independence. Here's the point. If you can dream it, you can do it. If you can write it down, if you can imagine it and write it down, then the only question you ask is, you say, how do we do it? And then what you do is you say, now who else has got what I want? And who else at one time didn't have it and now they have it? And what you do is you go and find out how they got there. You read their books, you ask them questions, you listen to their programs, and then you discipline yourself to do the same things they did until you get the same result. It's not a miracle. So clarity is the critical thing. Decide what you want. Decide clearly what you want. Talk about it. Think about it. Imagine it. Play with it. Like a child at Christmas time. Fantasize about a beautiful home, a beautiful car, travel, health, so on. All of these things are possible for you, but you have to have them in your mind first. Remember, it always begins within your mind and then goes into your reality. Number 4 is financial independence. We all want to be financially independent. Now, we all judge ourselves in life by how well we're doing on each of these 4. And we could be doing well in 3, but if we're low in 4, that's what bothers us. That's the thing that worries us more than anything else. You could have great health and good family and nice job and be broke. And you know what? You won't think about the other 3 things. You think about being broke all the time. Isn't that true? It's called the deficiency need in psychology. We always tend to think about where our deficiencies are and not pay enough attention to the other. Well, now the second part, the second orientation that successful people have is goal orientation. Now, goal orientation means that they have very clear written goals that they work on every single day. But what I want you to do is I want you to take a piece of paper like this. I want you to promise me you'll do this. If you'll do this, I promise you it will have a major impact on your life. Take a piece of paper like this, write the word goals at the top, and write down at least 10 goals you want to accomplish in the next 12 months. Now here's the important point. Writing down these goals takes 2 to 3 minutes. It's actually about 3. If you write down 10 things that you want to accomplish in the next 12 months. Now all you have to do then is take this piece of paper, fold it up, put it away somewhere where you won't see it for a whole year. Like in your Bible or something like that. Take it, put it away for a whole year, and at the end of the year you take out this list and open it up, and you'll be both happy and sad. You'll be happy because 8 of your 10 goals will have been accomplished in the most amazing ways. And you'll be sad because you'll wish you had written more goals and bigger goals. Now, does this work? Yes, it works everywhere. Parents go home and have their kids write down 10 goals or have their spouse write down 10 goals, and their whole lives change. Now, it's not that it takes at the end of 12 months, suddenly, bing, you achieve the goals. Is the goals start to come true at a rate that is absolutely amazing. People come to me and they say, my whole life has changed in the last 30 days. All kinds of things have happened. They've changed jobs. They've changed relationships. They've gotten a new house. They bought a car. They've taken a trip. And they're all things they wrote down. So your homework assignment is to write down 10 goals. And you can write down more if you like. Before I came over here, I wrote down my 10 goals. I do it every single day. I just write them and rewrite them. I carry a school notebook, a spiral notebook with me, and I just write down my goals every day, because that just burns them deeper and deeper and deeper into my subconscious mind. And it's the most amazing thing. It costs you 3 to 5 minutes a day, but the power on your life is phenomenal. If all you'll do from this day is you write down 10 goals, and then instead of putting them away for a year, just review them on a regular basis. I had a man come up to me at a seminar recently, and he said, Brian, I was at your seminar 6 months ago. He said, you gave that exercise about writing the 10 goals, and while you were talking, I was so excited, I wrote down 18 goals. Now, he said, the interesting thing was, I took the list from the seminar, I folded it up, took it home, and hid it. I didn't even look at it again. 2 weeks later, I moved to a new house. And when I was unpacking, I found the list. And I opened the list, and he said, I had to sit down to read it. He said, 11 of the 18 goals had been achieved in 5.5 months. One was to get a better job, which I had. One was to earn more money. I'm making more than I ever made. One was to get a new car. The new car came with the job. One was to get a new house. I just moved into the house because I could afford it. One was to lose weight. One was to take a trip. One was to learn a subject. One was to fix a relationship. But he said these were life goals, and I'd accomplished 11, and I'd almost accomplished 4 more. He said, in less than 6 months. And I lost the list. See, the interesting thing is when you write down the goals, writing a goal down actually programs it into your subconscious mind. So even if your conscious mind doesn't even remember the list, your subconscious mind's got it now, and it works 24 hours a day to bring it into your life. Please trust me on this. It's life transforming. And I've spoken all over the world and given this exercise. I've never had anybody say it didn't work. The only things they say are, it was incredible. The results on their lives were explosive. They could not believe it. So, will you give it a try? Say yes. Okay. Now, the third orientation is excellence orientation. In order to achieve something you have never achieved before, you have to be good at something you've never been good at before. You have to develop skills you've never had before. Now, your job is, now that you're in the top 10% mentally, and you've got to get there mentally before you get there financially. Once you're there mentally, your job is to stay there. Now, this idea of being in the top 10% is a major idea, and let me explain it. When I was growing up, I never thought I could be in the top 10% of anything. I failed in school. I did poorly in school. I got fired from jobs. Try getting fired. I used to pump gas in a gas station. I got fired from that because I wasn't good enough. I got fired from washing dishes. Try getting fired from washing dishes. It doesn't do your self-esteem very much good. And then I learned something that changed my life. I learned that everybody in the top 10% started where? In the bottom 10%. Everybody who's at the top and doing well was once at the bottom and doing poorly. Everybody who's at the front of the buffet line of life was once at the back of the line. Everybody who's at the top of your field was once not in your field at all. And anything that anyone else has done, you can do as well. It's almost like walking. If I said to you, I will pay you $1 million if you will walk from here to KL. Physically walk. Now, it doesn't matter how long you take. You can run if you want. But if you will just walk, you cannot take a ride, you have to walk. Now, if I told you, and you believed me, and the $1 million was there, you double-checked, all right, and you get $1 million from walking from here to downtown KL. Is there anybody here who could not do that? Okay. So we could all do it. Is that correct? But the point is that some people who are really fit will get there quickly. They'll do 25, 35 miles a day, okay? Some people who are not very fit will do 5 or 10 miles a day. Doesn't really matter. Everybody who keeps walking will get there. Are you with me so far? This is an important metaphor. Everybody who keeps walking toward the top 10% gets there. If you keep learning and practicing and trying and reading and listening to audio programs and get associated with other people, if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, you will achieve that level of financial income. There's nothing that can stop you except who? Only you can stop you by stopping. And so therefore you find that people who have no advantages at all, but have one, is they just don't stop. They can be a complete idiot. They can have every disadvantage. They can have limited education. They could come from a terrible country with no opportunities. They could have no family and be survivors of a terrible experience, but they just put one foot in front of the other. They get to the top 10%. You can be in the top 10%. So this is what I learned, which changed my life when I was 24 years old, is that if you make a decision to get into the top 10% and you don't take it back, you will get there. So to make a decision, I'm going to be in the top 10%. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. I'm going to pay the price. I'm going to read the books. I'm going to leave the television off. I'm going to start a little earlier. I'm going to work a little harder. I'm going to stay a little later. I'm going to get better. I am going to get into the top 10%. And you know what? There's nothing to stop you. The only reason people don't get into the top 10% is why? They don't decide to. And if they decide to, they don't get started. And if they get started, they quit. All right? So it's very important. But optimists say, hey, I can be in the top 10%. I can be. And they just never quit. They just keep on going. No matter how much criticism they get, no matter how many problems they have, get fired from their jobs, they have setbacks and difficulties, you just keep walking, just keep going. And they get there and people say, boy, you're sure lucky. No, you weren't. You make your own luck. You make your own luck by deciding where you're going and getting on the road. Now, I'm going to give you one of the key secrets to success for the rest of your life and share it with other people when they need it. It's one of the great secrets. In our world, we get paid for results. We get paid for getting the job done. Isn't that true? So, the only way we're going to get to the top 10% is by becoming very good at what we do. There's no shortcuts. We just have to get down and work at it. So, I'm going to ask you to do this. Ask yourself this question. What one skill in your field now, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most? You see, there's 5 to 7 core skills in every job. And it is our top skills that have got us to where we are, but it's our weakest skill that's holding us back. Your weakest skill sets the height of your income. Your weakest skill determines how much money you make. So ask yourself, what one skill, if I was really good at it, would increase my income the most? Believe me, anything that anyone else has done, you can do as well. Just make a decision what it is, be absolutely clear, and then set your future, your ideal, set the goal to achieve the ideal, determine the skill that you'll need. Now here's the fourth orientation, and this is really important. It's called growth orientation. Growth orientation is the key to the future, and the key to your success as well. Now, I was asked recently, what are the keys to continuous learning? What is the key to continuous growth? And I said that there's 3 things. Number 1 is read on a regular basis. Reading is to the mind as exercise is to the body. If you don't read, it's like if you don't exercise your muscles, what happens to them? What happens to your muscles if you don't use them? Yeah, they atrophy. They become weak. They become useless. But if you use them, then they're strong and they work for you. They're available to you at all times. It's the same as reading. When you read, it takes total concentration. It activates more brain cells. It works out that muscles. So the rule is read 30 to 60 minutes a day, 5 days a week. If you do that, you'll read about a book a week. That'll translate into about 50 books a year. 50 books a year will make you one of the smartest and highest paid people in your field. You'll go past everybody else in the business. So, read on a regular basis. Now, the second is to attend all the seminars that you can. Let me ask you, what is the most precious thing that you have in the whole world? Time. It's your time, because your time is your life. So therefore, when you learn something that can help you jump ahead, you save life. You achieve the same goal in a couple of years that somebody else may take 5 or 10 years to achieve. So always trade money for time or life. And if it costs you a little bit to go to a seminar, pay the money, because you'll get it back 10, 20, 50, 100 times in not only increased income, but also in the years that you'll save to get to the same point. So therefore, attend every seminar you can. Keep an eye open. Listen for them. Watch for them. And go to them. Because the return on your investment is 10, 20, 30, 50 times whatever the cost of the seminar is. The third thing is to listen to audio programs as you move around. Listen to audio programs on a regular basis. You see, if I were to say to you, here is some stock for a company, would you like to buy some of this stock? Okay? It's a good company. And you looked at it, and you looked at all the material, and you said, no, I don't want to buy any of that stock. What would you be telling me? Well, you'd be telling me that you didn't think that was a good investment. Right? People who don't invest in themselves are saying a very, very bad thing. They're saying, I don't think that this is a good person to invest in. This company has no future. This person has no future. The interesting thing is that the more you invest in yourself, the more you believe in yourself, the more you like yourself, the more determined you become, the more confident you become, the better you get. The more you invest in yourself, the more it transforms you. People who don't invest in themselves, surprisingly enough, don't think that they're worth spending any money on. And you know what? Turns out to be true. Because your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. So remember, time is your most precious resource, and your most valuable asset is your earning ability. Your ability to earn money is the most important single factor you have. Your ability to apply your mind to earning money. And the person who earns 100,000, person who earns 200,000, there's no difference in intelligence. No difference in basic ability. It's just a difference in earning ability. One has upgraded their skills and knowledge so they earn at this level, the other has not. And the key is future orientation, goal orientation, excellence orientation, and growth orientation. Right?
Hello and welcome. I'd like to talk to you about how to be a leader in the modern world. I want to make it clear before we start that I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. That has nothing to do with me or anyone else. It's up to you to make the most of your life, which is yours to live. The program you're about to start is not a bunch of niceties, cliches, or Pollyanna-style positivity. Instead, it's the result of over 20 years of study on one question: why do some people do so well in life while so many others don't? The first thing we need to talk about is the magic word, which is the most important word for how things turn out in life. The word for this is attitude. It's how we feel about life that will decide how life feels about us. It's important to remember that we make our own lives, and that the way our lives turn out depends on how we feel. For instance, a person who doesn't like learning won't learn much until they change how they feel about it. Most of the time, we won't do something if we think we can't do it. If we think we're going to fail, we might not even try. So, it's clear that our general attitude has a lot to do with what we get out of life and what we achieve or don't achieve. We are more likely to succeed in life if we have a positive, I can do it attitude than if we have a negative, I can't. So attitude is the magic word that can change our lives. It's up to us to have a good attitude about life and all the problems it brings. We can be the best in the current world if we have the right attitude. William James, a renowned philosopher and psychologist from Harvard University, once said that the greatest discovery of his generation was that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind. This is a wonderful realization because it means that we have a measure of control over our own lives. Before we talk about our attitude toward the world, it's important to discuss our attitude toward ourselves. The attitude we take toward ourselves is what ultimately determines our attitude toward the world. It's a strange fact that we tend to take ourselves for granted because we're so familiar with ourselves. We tend to minimize our own abilities and the goals we can achieve. We also tend to believe that others can accomplish things in our field that we cannot. As a result of this defensive, doubtful attitude toward ourselves, many people live narrow, darkened, and frustrated lives. They oppose change and see it as a threat rather than an opportunity for growth and fulfillment. However, the truth is that change is the one thing in life on which we can absolutely count. Those who stay young all their lives not only welcome change, but see it for what it really is, a new opportunity, a chance for further fulfillment. Attitude is a reflection of a person's will, and it's incalculably powerful. It can bring about marvelous results for us, but we need to train it patiently day by day. We need to develop a positive, can-do attitude toward ourselves and the world around us. With the right attitude, we can accomplish anything we set our minds to. The attitude of successful people is a fascinating subject to explore, and William James's assertion that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind is undoubtedly true. Successful people, who constitute the top 5% of individuals who go from one success to another, have a particular kind of attitude towards themselves and life that sets them apart from the rest. They possess a strong belief in their ability to accomplish what they set out to do, and they approach life with a healthy and positive attitude. These individuals come from all walks of life and are involved in professions, from sales, business, and executive positions, to the armed forces, public service, and religion. They are students, working men and women, wives and mothers. However, what sets them apart from others is their unwavering belief in their ability to succeed. They expect more good out of life than bad, and they believe that they can accomplish their goals. Successful people possess an attitude towards themselves that is characterized by a healthy self-esteem, confidence, and a positive outlook. They believe that there is no good reason why they cannot be competent and successful in their endeavors. They also have a healthy attitude towards failure, seeing it as an opportunity to learn and improve rather than a setback. One of the remarkable things about successful people is that they come to be called successful, outstanding, brilliant, lucky, and a host of other accolades, even though they are not necessarily more intelligent or outstanding than the people around them. What sets them apart is their attitude towards themselves and life, which enables them to achieve remarkable things with ease. They do not see obstacles or challenges as insurmountable, but rather as opportunities to grow and develop. The attitude of successful people is not limited to their professional lives. It permeates all aspects of their lives, including their personal relationships, health, and well-being. They approach everything they do with a can-do attitude and expect positive outcomes. Their mindset is one of abundance, which allows them to see opportunities where others see only challenges. Therefore, the attitude of successful people is a powerful force that enables them to achieve remarkable things in their personal and professional lives. They're unwavering in their ability to succeed, healthy self-esteem, and positive outlook set them apart from the rest. They see failure as an opportunity to learn and grow, and obstacles as opportunities to overcome. By developing the right attitude towards themselves and life, anyone can achieve success and live their best life. The importance of attitude cannot be overstated. People who are successful, regardless of their field or background, all have one thing in common: the right attitude. They approach life with a healthy attitude towards themselves, and as a result, towards the things they want to achieve. They take the attitude that they can accomplish what they set out to accomplish, that there's no good reason why they can't be competent and successful. They expect more good out of life than bad, and they expect to succeed more than they fail. This mindset makes them resilient to failures and setbacks. Even when they fail at something, they shrug it off and head right out again. Successful people come in all shapes and sizes and have widely varying degrees of intelligence and background. They are not necessarily more brilliant or outstanding than the majority of the people by whom they're surrounded. What sets them apart is their attitude. They have developed the right attitude towards themselves and towards life, and they find their accomplishments not too difficult, and many times surprisingly easy. The world we live in is impersonal and does not care whether we change or not. However, adopting a good, healthy attitude towards life can make a huge difference in our lives. Our environment is really a mirror of our mental attitude. If we don't like our environment, we have to change our attitude first. It would be impossible to estimate the number of jobs lost, promotions missed, sales not made, and marriages ruined by poor attitudes. But we can number in the millions the jobs which are held but hated, the marriages which are tolerated but unhappy. All because of people who are waiting for the world and others to change towards them, instead of being big enough and wise enough to make a test, which will prove where most, or at least a big part of the trouble lies. Studies made of the lives of successful people have shown that they radiate confidence and assurance. They expect success, and they get success. You can spot these people by the way they walk, by the way they look and act. They have about them the attitude of success, which makes them stand out in a crowd. And so, attitude plays a crucial role in our lives. We should take the attitude that there are a lot more why we can have what we want than there are reasons why we cannot. We should set out to earn it, go after it, work at it, and ask for it. If we adopt a healthy attitude towards ourselves and towards life, we will achieve remarkable things and come to be called successful, outstanding, brilliant, lucky, and a lot of other things. The quote from the record Greener Pastures contains a powerful message about the role of attitude in achieving success. The author emphasizes that it is essential to adopt a positive and expectant attitude towards life in order to achieve one's goals. The author suggests that one way to form a good attitude habit is to begin acting as though you already have a positive attitude. This means walking, acting, and looking as if you belong to a group of successful people. The author goes on to say that if you're already in the top 5% of your field, you'll understand the importance of having a positive attitude. However, if you've never tried it, the author encourages you to do so and promises that you'll be amazed at what happens. The author believes that actions trigger feelings, and feelings trigger actions. So by behaving like a successful person, you'll begin to feel like one. The author also provides a test to prove that a good attitude can change a person's life dramatically. The test involves walking from a darkened room into the bright, clear light of day. The author believes that this simple act is a metaphor for the power of attitude. Just as walking into the light can transform a darkened room, adopting a positive attitude can transform a person's life. Finally, the author shares a quote that underscores the importance of attitude in life. The quote suggests that life is only dull, or interesting, or successful to the extent that people make it so. In other words, people who have a positive and expectant attitude towards life are more likely to experience success and fulfillment than those who do not. So, the message in the quote from Greener Pastures is clear. Adopting a positive and expectant attitude towards life is essential to achieving success and fulfillment. By acting as though you already possess this attitude, you can form a habit that will help you achieve your goals and transform your life. The idea presented here is that in order to achieve success, one must first adopt a successful attitude. This means becoming mentally and emotionally aligned with the outcome one desires. The example of the successful restaurateur, who was already successful in his mind even when he was sleeping on park benches, illustrates this point. His attitude of success was already deeply ingrained within him before he achieved tangible rewards of success. The message here is that success is not just about external factors such as luck or circumstances, but it is also about our internal state of mind. If we have a positive and optimistic attitude, we are more likely to attract good things and opportunities into our lives. This is the principle of the law of attraction, which states that our thoughts and emotions have a powerful influence on what we attract into our lives. The author suggests that we should start acting, looking, and feeling successful even before we achieve success. This means cultivating an attitude of success and expecting good things to happen. This can be a challenge for some people who may have limiting beliefs or negative self-talk. However, by adopting a positive mindset, we can shift our thinking and beliefs and start to attract more positive outcomes into our lives. Ultimately, the message is that success is not just about luck or circumstances, but it is also about the mindset we bring to the table. By adopting a successful attitude, we can achieve our goals and lead a fulfilling life. If you want to see a significant improvement in your life, there's a test that has been scientifically proven to work. All you need to do is to follow it conscientiously for the next 30 days without fail. By doing so, you can join a small group of happy and productive people who have already experienced amazing results. It doesn't matter how good your attitude has been in the past, There's always room for improvement. Small refinements upon something already good can make it great. So here's the test. For the next 30 days, act towards the world, everything, and everyone with whom you come in contact, with the attitude that represents the kind of results you want to achieve. For instance, if you want to be more successful in what you're doing, act as though you are already in possession of the success you seek. If you want others to treat you with admiration and respect, treat others with admiration and respect first. If you stick with this test for 30 days, you will find yourself becoming lucky, and most of your problems will pretty well take care of themselves. The results will be nothing short of amazing. You may not have realized it, but every person you interact with also believes that they are the most important person in the world. This is true for every human being on Earth. So, for the next 30 days, try treating every person you come across as if they are the most important person in the world. This means giving them your full attention, listening to them attentively, and valuing their opinions and thoughts. Treating everyone in this way is important not only because it is the right way to treat others, but also because it can help you form a habit that will bring you amazing and delightful results for the rest of your life. When you treat others with respect and kindness, you are likely to receive the same treatment in return. This can lead to better relationships, improved communication, and ultimately, more happiness and success in your personal and professional life. So, try it out and see the positive impact it has on yourself and those around you. If you were already at the top of your game, the top of your organization, the top of your industry, it's not a coincidence that the people who are successful, who have achieved great things, are often the most approachable, kind, and generous individuals. They understand that success is not just about personal achievement, but also about the relationships and connections they make along the way. When you have a positive attitude, people are naturally drawn to you. They want to work with you, do business with you, and be around you. This is because a good attitude is contagious. It creates a positive environment where everyone feels supported and encouraged to do their best. So, for the next 30 days, make a conscious effort to treat others with the same kindness and respect that you want to be treated with. This means treating your spouse as the most important person in your life, your children as the precious individuals they are, and everyone you meet with the same level of respect and attention you would give to someone at the top of your field. The key here is to approach each interaction with a positive mindset. Instead of focusing on what you can get out of the interaction, focus on what you can give. When you approach others with the intention of helping them, of making their day a little bit better, you'll find that people are much more receptive to your ideas and much more willing to work with you. Remember, a good attitude is not something you have to be born with. It's something that can be developed through conscious effort and practice. By taking the time to focus on your attitude for the next 30 days, you'll be building a habit that will serve you well for the rest of your life. Not only will you find that people are more willing to work with you, but you'll also feel better about yourself and the world around you. If you were the most successful human being on earth, you would understand the power of developing a habitual attitude. You would recognize that when a person consistently acts with a positive and productive attitude, they have already placed themselves on the path to success. You would know that this kind of attitude places a person in the top 5% of individuals in any country. By cultivating this positive attitude, a person is preparing the ground and planting the seed for their success. They are making themselves a magnet, an embodiment of the very things they seek. It is like the process of casting metal into a desired shape. The mold, or the expectant receptacle, must be fashioned first. Similarly, before building a structure, the excavation and foundation must be laid. In order to achieve the kind of life a person wants, they must become the kind of individual they wish to be. They must think, act, talk, walk, and conduct themselves in all their affairs as the person they wish to become. Once a person becomes that individual, the things that person would have and do will naturally come to them. Almost immediately, a change will be noticed in the individual's life. Irritations that used to frustrate and annoy will disappear. When someone gives them a hard time, they will stay on track and not let the negative behavior affect them. If someone cuts in front of them with their car or behaves in a discourteous manner, the person with a positive attitude will not drop to their level. They will not seek revenge or engage in negative behavior. Instead, they will continue to act with kindness and respect. It's important to remember that the company we keep can greatly impact our lives. People with negative attitudes tend to attract negative experiences and belong to a group that a person may not want to associate with. By acting with a positive attitude, a person separates themselves from this negative group and begins to attract positive experiences and people into their lives. So, for the next 30 days, try to act with the kind of attitude that you want to see in others. Treat your spouse, children, and everyone you meet as if they are the most important person on earth. With consistent effort, this positive attitude will become habitual, and you will notice a positive change in your life. It's a universal truth that every human being has a deep-seated desire to feel valued and important. This need is not restricted to any particular gender or age group, but rather it is a fundamental need that every individual has. From the time we are born, we crave attention and affection from those around us, and this need only intensifies as we grow older. Think about it. How do you feel when someone ignores you, belittles you, or makes you feel insignificant? It hurts, doesn't it? On the other hand, when someone treats you with respect and kindness, acknowledges your efforts, and makes you feel important, it feels great, doesn't it? This is a feeling that we all crave and seek in our personal and professional relationships. Now, if we take this concept and apply it to business, it becomes even more apparent. As consumers, we are more likely to do business with someone who treats us with respect, values our opinions, and makes us feel important. We are more likely to buy from a company whose representatives take the time to listen to us and understand our needs rather than one that treats us like just another customer. Similarly, in the workplace, employees are more likely to be loyal and committed to an organization that values and respects them, recognizes their contributions, and provides opportunities for growth and development. When employees feel